Welcome to our 34th edition of Cool Tools, where I get to show you some of the clever and innovative tools that I get to work with every day here in our shop. I've picked out 7 of my favorites this time. We've got some big stuff like a high-tech servo motor lathe and some small stuff like a 12-foot shop vac hose that stores in a tiny little space. Some of these tools are a little expensive, but some are really cheap. I walked through the shop and I think I found something for everyone. As always, if there are any sponsors involved, they're disclosed at the beginning of the video and down by the links. So please use those links so you can learn more about anything you see, especially the current price. Some of these have limited time discounts I found, so it's worth using those links. You'll find them by expanding the video description below, and I'm also going to pin them to the top of the comment section. So let's get started. I came across this fence while I was looking for a solution to a problem I actually no longer had. My old bandsaw had a terrible fence. The forward-facing slit in the table, though, made it impossible to mount a good aftermarket fence on there. I've since replaced that bandsaw with a much better saw that has an excellent fence, but I know many of my viewers still struggle with that problem, and I finally come up with, I think, the best solution. This is a self-aligning magnetic bandsaw fence from Taylor Toolworks. It's a high-quality aluminum extrusion that comes with 2 150-pound switchable magnets that can hold on any non-ferrous surface, such as cast iron. And the T-fence at the base helps to quickly align it on the saw. Now, here are a few things I noted while I was using it. The first time I installed this, I had to loosen the mounting screws, which you access through the face of the extrusion, and allow the magnets to self-align themselves on the fence so they would fully seat on the table. Then I tightened the screws back down. I only had to do that once. The T-fence on the bottom of the extrusion pivots on a single bolt. This makes it possible to adjust the fence's alignment if your bandsaw has some drift that you need to compensate for. That single screw does hold the little fence in place, but I worry that it could be bumped out of alignment when you're taking it on and off the saw and storing it. So once you set it to your saw and you compensate for drift, or if you set it square like I do, I recommend scribing the little T-fence's position right on the magnet side of the main extrusion so you can quickly see if it's out of alignment and readjust it without having to go through a whole process. As you can see, the fence is pretty robust, and I had no difficulty resawing with it. The many T-slots in the main extrusion make it possible to add a tall auxiliary fence face if you wish to resaw wider materials or various jigs and hold downs. While it looks like many of the common jig building extrusions that you buy online, keep in mind that this has been milled flat, straight, and square to the table after it was formed. The switchable magnets make it very easy to set up and adjust, and they hold well enough to shake this 500-pound bandsaw. The magnets can be moved closer together for smaller tables, so it can actually serve double duty as a drill press fence as well. If you're looking for an aftermarket bandsaw fence that's easy to install, easy to adjust for drift, stores right on the saw itself, can also be used as a drill press fence, and comes from a small family-owned company, check out Taylor Toolworks fence at the link below the video. I gotta say, I'm torn between these two tools, and I hope you can help me make up my mind about which one's the best. They're both primarily router setup tools, but one is a high-tech digital gauge, while the other is an old-school analog gauge. Now let me show you the differences, and then you can tell me which style you prefer. The EasyCheck digital gauge is heavy and well made. The base is a solid block of anodized aluminum with embedded magnets, and the arm is steel with laser-etched markings. The digital readout features fractions, decimals, and millimeters. The analog router gauges come in a 2-piece set. 2 for the price of 1 is definitely a nice bonus. They're both well machined from anodized aluminum, and there is zero play in their sliding mechanisms. The scales are all laser engraved, and they're very easy to read. Really, both versions are of excellent quality, but they function a little differently from each other. The digital EasyCheck gauge's arm is placed on top of your bit to take your measurement, and any adjustments can be made without removing it from the table. It works very smoothly, but you do have to apply some downward pressure at the base to keep it seated as you raise the bit. I prefer the fractional scale because it's easy to read, But for the highest level of precision, such as when you want to record a bit height to repeat it precisely later, I recommend using the decimal scale, which reads to the thousandth of an inch. The analog gauge straddles the bit and may be used to measure a fixed height or to gradually raise the bit to a predetermined point. I love the simplicity of it, and while you have to rely upon your eyesight to read the scale, the fine white markings are easy to align. Both gauges may be used to set the fence. The digital Easy Check can take both inside and outside measurements. You just have to subtract the 1/4 inch thickness of the beam when you measure from inside the bit. You'll notice offsets for 3 common router bit shank sizes. If I place the 1/2 inch offset against the 1/2 inch shank of my router bit, the scale now measures from the center of the bit rather than the edge of the cutter. This works with straight and profiled bits, and it is really handy. Not to be outdone, the analog gauge may be used to set the fence as well, and it also includes offsets for 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch shanks, so you can measure from the center of the bit. It lacks the ability to take inside measurements except for 6 common fence settings, which are assigned to notches along the feet, and these can be used for quick setups. So while both gauges do the same tasks, they do them in different ways. It's also worth noting that while both may be used to set up a table saw's blade height as well as a router table, the Easy Check's embedded magnets help it to stick to the saw top. And only the Easy Check can be used to set this table saw's fence, while the analog version lacks that function. On the other hand, the analog gauges are more compact and they're nice and thin and light, and they can be slipped in an apron pocket, plus no batteries to change. They're both great tools, but I think personal preference is going to dictate which one you like the best. So use the links below to check them out in more detail, then come back here and tell me your preference in the comments. If you use a shop vacuum, you know how frustrating the hoses can be. I've been using Dust-Right collapsible hoses for years, both their 4-inch version and their smaller 2.5-inch version, because I love the way they expand and contract. That helps me solve a lot of problems. For example, this router table fence needs a fairly long hose when I use it, but I don't want to trip over the hose hanging off when the fence is removed. The Dust-Right hose was the perfect solution for that. But what about replacing my long, unwieldy shop vacuum hose? Well, the fittings are standard, so the swap was easy. And it extends to 12 feet, which is longer than my old hose, but it also springs back to about half that length by itself, which is far easier to manage on the vacuum. Plus, it can be further compressed down for storage. What other vacuum hose can fit in a tiny compartment like this? You can literally put it in a little drawer instead of tripping over it later. It's tough, it includes 2 swivel fittings, and if you're like me, I think you'll be replacing your 2.5-inch dust collection hoses and your shop vac hose all over the shop. I'll link to it below so you can check it out. I've been using the Empower CRB7 router base for years. I have a router that is dedicated to this base. It never comes off because it is such a versatile jig. Really, the most versatile I have ever bought. With its various attachments, it can be an offset base for greater stability. It has a micro adjuster for the edge guide. It cuts circles and mortises and flutes, all sorts of things. We've featured many of its functions in various project videos and even here on Cool Tools in the past. The reason I'm talking about it again today is because Empower is a small company that I not only like to support, but they just keep coming up with more and more great ideas, including a new attachment for its router base that expands its functionality even more. This is a trim accessory kit, and it's meant to provide a clean, tear-out-free method of flush trimming edge banding, either solid wood or the iron-on type. They have a little video explaining it on their website in more detail, and I highly recommend you check that out. As I said, this is a great small business that's worth supporting, and it is really a fantastic multi-function router base that I have personally used on many projects and recommended for years. I'll link to the whole system and to that new attachment below. Another great small business that I've worked with for years is Bora Tools, and they have a clever new addition to their very popular Centipede expandable work tables. If you remember from a previous episode, the Bora Centipede tables are nothing short of amazing. They're based on a system of struts that collapse and expand so you can set up a work area anytime you need it, then stow it away in seconds. They come in 2x4, 4x4, and 4x8 sizes, and they can support up to 6,000 pounds. Now normally, I just throw a sheet of plywood on top to complete my work surface, but plywood takes up a lot of space. So in keeping with the compact portability of the whole Centipede system, Bora produced tabletops that fold out from 24x24 to 24x48 inches. So they attach right to the top of the various Centipedes with some cam locks. The 2x4 Centipede requires a single top, and you can add more to cover the larger Centipede bases. They're available with or without dog holes. I personally prefer the Holy versions because you can use all sorts of 3/4 or 20mm accessories to hold your work. They're made out of high-density fiberboard for stability so they won't warp, but they're pretty tough. If you work somewhere in the rain though, I do suggest throwing on a coat or two of water-based poly. When you're done working, they fold back up and they can either be carried by their handle or slipped into a separately sold padded bag. If you're looking for a portable, compact work surface, give the Bora Centipede a closer look by using the links below this video. I've had my Harvey T40 Turbo wood lathe for a couple years now, so I think I'm ready to give a review for those looking for a top quality lathe that doesn't take up a ton of space. My T40 fits in what I call the creative corner of my workshop. And while I'm not a pro turner by any means, it's become my go-to machine when I do turn, even though I have a couple other lathes. The build is impeccable. It has a 14-inch swing, meaning you can turn up to a 14-inch bowl over the bed. That puts it in the smaller lathe category. However, it's built like a much larger machine with oversized castings, big steel handles and cranks. No cheap plastic is anywhere to be found. Everything operates so smoothly from the tailstock to the tool rest. Adjustments are easy and they lock firmly in place. The main bed gives you 24 inches of turning capacity between centers, but I've added an 18-inch extension to mine so I can turn spindles up to 42 inches long. The lathe itself weighs 178 pounds, and with the addition of the extension and the optional cast iron legs, I'll bet it's well over 400 pounds, which really dampens vibration. The head rotates 90 degrees for offboard turning of objects larger than 14 inches, and it has 24 index positions. It also has power to go with its size. The servo motor is monitored by an internal computer that reacts to changes in torque and instantly adjusts to maintain a consistent, smooth speed. It's really nice. It's one of the things I noticed right away. It's rated at 1 horsepower, but remember, this is a servo motor, which works a little differently. They claim it functions like a 3 horsepower standard motor lathe. I don't know enough about servo motors to explain that, other than the fact that they are far more efficient than AC motors. But I can tell from personal use that I've never bogged this lathe down, even with aggressive turning in the small and medium-sized bowls that I sometimes do. Whether that's comparable to 2 horsepower or 3 horsepower, I can't say. As for the speeds, the dial is so responsive, I can get it to barely creep around at about 1 turn per second, or increase it along an infinite range of speeds almost instantly. It tops out at nearly 4,300 RPM, and that's in both forward or reverse. I love how responsive it is. I never change the belt setting. I can do just about everything I need with the dial alone. But that said, there are 2 belt positions available for 2 different speed ranges. I've done a fair amount of turning with this lathe over the couple years I've had it. Others in my shop have worked with it as well, and we've all been really impressed. They do make a much bigger version, but I think the T40 is perfect for most non-pro turning shops. I'll link to it below so you can check it out in more detail yourself. I like to end each episode of Cool Tools with an inexpensive tool that might be worth its weight in gold. This time it's the Miles Craft Sand Plane. I came across this sometime back at a Menards store and I kind of bought it on a whim, but I am so glad I did. It's a sanding block with various profiled soles so you can sand different curves and shapes. It accepts standard hook and loop sanding discs, and it is so useful for a lot of different projects. There's really not a lot I can say about it. It's just one of those tools that you don't really think about until you really need it, and then you're glad you have one in the drawer. And it's only like $8 or $9, so I'd say grab one. I don't think they're going to last long. Our viewers usually snap stuff like this up quick. So click the link below this video if you want one. Well, that's it for this edition of Cool Tools. I'm going to head through the shop again soon to pick out some more cool stuff for our next edition, which we'll have in a couple months. See you then.